11.7, 11.8 volts. Yeah, that's no good. This battery's gonna be dead soon.
Alrighty, so as you can see there, we got a little bit of an issue right now with our 2021 Jeep JL Wrangler Sport S. Over this past weekend, it has decided that it doesn't want to start as well as it used to. The remote start function is not working. As you just saw, it'll crank for a half a second and just quit. And then when you manually start it, it doesn't want to, but it turns on. It starts. All the lights in the cab go real dim, and it takes a couple more seconds than the more instantaneous push the button and go. So we obviously have a problem. Now, here in northern Colorado, it's been cold. Roughly in the 30s during the day right now here in January, and in the teens at night. It's gonna be 7 degrees tomorrow night. So it's been cold out here. And obviously if you have a failing or a degrading battery, you're gonna notice it when it's cold outside. Now, the main problem with the Jeep JL Wranglers is that they have not one, but two batteries. You have your main battery up here in the engine compartment, and then right underneath it, located in the passenger side wheel well, right back here, is an auxiliary battery, which serves the main purpose of dealing with auto, stop, start, and AC functions while your engine is turned off at a stoplight. And like me, most of the Jeep owners don't use the auto stop feature. You hop in the Jeep, hit the disable button, which you have to do, unfortunately, every time, unless you program your Jeep with a taser. And yeah, then that auxiliary battery basically serves no purpose. So now my problem here is, has the main battery failed or has the auxiliary battery failed, which will then cause a parasitic drain of the main battery, an extremely common issue with all JL and even JT owners. To basically get rid of any of that speculation and solve our issue once and for all today, we're going to not only replace the stock battery in this Jeep with a little bit of an upgraded battery with more cold crank amps. We're also going to go ahead and do what has been pretty much well documented online, an auxiliary battery delete. It seems pretty simple, where you just remove a fuse, disconnect a negative cable, tie it on up. Some people just tie it on up, others will remove the battery. I'll see what I do in the future, but for now, I'm just gonna be tying it on up. But anyways, we're gonna go ahead, replace our battery, conduct the auxiliary battery delete, and see if we continue to have any issues. I don't think we will. And yeah, let's see if my analysis so far is correct. So let's get to it. Alrighty. Yeah, come on over here. So right here we have our stock battery negative terminal and positive terminal right here, as well as our fuse box. We're gonna have to pay attention to this fuse box because regarding the auxiliary battery delete, it's going to involve unplugging fuse number 42 underneath here. So what we're gonna do first is get ourselves disconnected on both the negative and the positive side of the battery to be able to remove this battery. While we do that, we're also going to remove, there are two cables here. One is thicker, one is thinner. This is the thinner one right here. This thinner negative cable right here on this 2021 Jeep is going to be our auxiliary battery negative. We're going to disconnect this from the whole negative block here, tape it on up, and that'll be part of our delete. So I believe it is a 10 millimeter socket. Let's see. I'm going to get a couple of different ones. It looks like it might be 10 and 13 or 10 and 12. Let me go take a look and see. All right, so it's going to be a 10 mil. That's going to hold this right to the terminal on the battery. And then this is actually going to be, I believe, yep, 13 mil is perfect. All right, so before I disconnect and untighten this from the terminal, I'm going to go ahead and loosen this up here. And what we'll want to do is, let's see. We have this negative, which I do believe is coming from my winch. Pull that up and over. Let me get some electrical tape. Always better to be safe than sorry here. Let's see. Just don't want the possibility of anything touching anything, even for a short moment. We'll go ahead and take that off afterwards. Okay, so now why I wanted to disconnect this 13 mil here is because we have this, which is our auxiliary negative that we wanted to disconnect. With that disconnected, let's get it a little bent to the side. And that one, we're going to go ahead, get some electrical tape right here. And we're just gonna wrap around like that, like once. I'm gonna do it a few more times because what I'll end up doing, once I wrap it around, let's see. Once more for good measure, total of a little more than 3 wraps, but we're making sure this will never be a problem for us. Okay, nice and secured. Once we got it wrapped, now I'll go ahead, I'll get this zip tied to this other negative cable here. So now we'll have that in place just in case we ever do need to reconnect it in the future. It is all wrapped through this entire loom, so there's nowhere really to put it anyways. We're gonna go ahead, we'll zip tie it to here. It shouldn't be in our way and it shouldn't cause any issues in the future. Get a nice black zip tie and get this clipped. Perfect. Alrighty. We're going to go ahead with a 10 millimeter socket and disconnect the negative from the terminal on our battery. Okay. Should be able to pull that on up. And what I do want to do, I want to make sure that that never touches anything over there. Let's go ahead, just for now, grab a bit of a rag, put that over our negatives. And now we know we won't have any accidental issues with our negative wires touching our positive terminal on the battery, not only when we're removing this battery, but also installing the new one. Okay, and now for the positive, let's get this moved on out of the way. There's nothing for us to disconnect in regards to the positive, so what we're gonna do, it is, once again, it looks like, let's see, So it looks like there's just going to be a 10 millimeter socket on this nut right here on our positive terminal. Go ahead, remove that nut. Let's see. As long as that's loosened up, Should be good to go. Okay, what I'm running into right now is that I have the positive for my winch that's kind of getting in my way. So I'm gonna go ahead. For me, it's a 10 mil. Let's hold that, get that loosened up, out of the way. I'll get this wrapped too. Don't want any potential for headaches in the future. Near future, may I add. Perfect, nice and wrapped. All right, so now we've got our positive disconnected. That should be okay. I'm gonna do the same thing. Go ahead, let's get a different color rag. For this one, we'll go with blue in an attempt to prevent that from ever touching anything right now. Okay, so now we got this little fabric cover on our battery that y'all definitely recognize under the hood of your Jeep. Let's remove that for right now. Put that down, we'll put it on our new battery. And let's take a look at this one here. 1000 Chrysler Drive, isn't that funny? Oh, wow, I'm actually surprised. Okay, so this battery only has 650 cold crank amps. The new one we're putting in, which I'll show you guys once we're putting it in, but the new one we're putting in is 800 cold crank amps. I actually thought it was 850, but spoiler alert, I got it from Walmart, and on the website it shows 850, but it looks like they might have refreshed the model and it's only 800. Even so, it's going to be a big upgrade from this stock battery that comes with the Sport S. All right, let's see. I've seen there might be something. Yeah, I can't just pull it. It's bolted in here, and I think it's from that. All right, so there actually seems to be a 10 millimeter bolt that, from what I've read, might be holding it in place in this tray. Let me remove that bolt first, and then we'll see. Let me get an extension. The problem with constantly working on your vehicles, you lose all your 10 millimeter sockets. So I had to go up to a 3/4 inch wrench to have a socket. All right, let's try this out. Let's see, 10 mil. Yes, it is. And they're pretty loose too. Let's see if that's even out. Feels very loose. Okay. Oh my goodness, it's a long friggin' screw. Come on. Bolt, rather. Okay. Oh my, okay, there we go. See? Long bolt. There might be some more. No, there's something else to do. Is it on the other side? I'll move all this out of my way. Maybe there's something. Okay, well, this puck comes out, and I just dumped dirt all over, but this hasn't been out of there. Oh, okay. You see how it's shaped? So this is bolted in there, holding it, hugging it from the bottom. I think now I might be able to just pull it this way and up. Let's try that. So just as I said, once we remove that, let's see. I'm gonna try to pull the battery towards me. There we go. Oh man, that's heavy. And no. Okay. There we go. Okay, so now before we go ahead and replace the stock battery with the new battery that we got, first we're gonna have to go ahead and remove fuse number 42 from our fuse box to finalize the auxiliary delete that we are doing alongside this battery replacement. So now first, let me show you the new battery that we got. That is going to be the Everstart Platinum H7 AGM battery. So I picked this battery up from Walmart for about $180, which honestly that was in the price point that I was willing to spend for this right now. But it it does come with a 4-year warranty. This battery is going to serve me very well, especially because if you consider the 650 cold crank amps that the stock battery came with, this 800 cold crank amps is going to make a huge difference, especially during these Colorado winters. And now, one other thing I did forget to mention before we even go ahead and remove that fuse. In order to get an H7 battery to fit into the stock sport battery tray, you're gonna have to remove, which it looks like it already wants to come out. Oh my goodness, it does. This tab right here was barely even in, probably from all the off-roading and bouncing around. Let's see if I could even put it back in. Yeah, it just sits there. So that tab right down there, pull it on up, and an H7 battery will be able to fit perfectly within this tray. Give or take different models that might be oversized for some reason. It appears there's a lot of models, if you look online, that will be able to fit in here. That's the Everlast, Odyssey, Yellow Top. Those types of models and others, if you look it up on the forums, will be able to fit in this battery tray. Okay, so now before we go ahead and put the Everlast into our battery tray and try to start her up, we're gonna go ahead, might have to get some light in this situation, and pop that fuse cover. All right, so now we're gonna go ahead, let me move this out of the way. I have some lighting wiring here. We got a tab in the back and a tab in the front. Go ahead. Your mileage may vary, as mine is, with getting this cover off and not causing too much of a ruckus. Okay, don't really want this laying in there, but it's okay for right now. All right, so what we're going to look for here, as you guys can see, is fuse 42 for the PCR control field. Fuse 42. Let's look for it on here. I do believe it looks upside down, but this is how it's actually oriented in the box. Fuse 42 is right here. We have 1, 2, 3, 1, 2, and it's the first fuse right down in there. So if we look, fuse 42 is going to be right here. And I do believe it's that 10 amp fuse. Let's see. All right, so fuse 42 is going to be a 10 amp fuse. It even says on the board for ESS. And that's his red fuse right here where this brown and gray relay are, across from these other two gray relays. Right in the middle is this 10 amp fuse. So, and since I don't have my own fuse puller handy at the moment, if you did not know, the fuse box has included a little fuse puller tool right here. Let me try to see if it's as easy as just snapping it up. I think it should be. Yep, it's coming up. Just got it. There we go. So now we have a little fuse puller. So we're going to go ahead with the tiny side here. Get around our 10. And just like that, we have our F42 fuse responsible for the ESS system, the PCR control, removed. There is a, let's see, there's spaces for spare fuses right back here, and I do want to confirm that for myself on this panel. It looks like those are the spots. And we can just put our 10 amp fuse in the spaces right back there. You see it just sits in, ain't gonna go anywhere. So now we've relocated our F42 fuse from its existing stock location to a spare location right back here, utilizing the included fuse puller that is in our fuse box. All right, so that actually concludes our auxiliary delete. I think in the future, in the near future, I might want to fully remove the auxiliary battery. I'll save that for another video, but for now, I just want to make sure that I can get the Jeep up and running normally, properly again, with our remote start function and a brand new battery that isn't getting any possible parasitic draw from it. So I'm gonna button this up now and we'll go ahead and throw the new battery in. Perfect. All right, so now that we have the auxiliary battery delete done for now and the stock battery removed, we're gonna go ahead and throw in our H7 800 cold crank amp battery, a definite upgrade from our stock H6 650 cold crank amp battery. Let's get to lifting just to make this easier. Okay. I just don't want to. This damn thing's heavy. Let's see. Okay, at least it's in there. Nice. Nice, 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 nice. Okay. We're going to go ahead and let's see, jiggle it over. I think you see the battery has some tabs on this end that I think I have to lift this side up. There we go. Perfect. Yep. So the battery has some tabs on the bottom surrounding it, and the JL battery tray actually has little pucks around it that catch those tabs. So I had to finagle it a little bit, got it in there, and now I'll reinstall that one piece that was held in with the 10 mil bolt, and this battery will be secured. Okay, so here we go with this battery puck. I think I see where it has to go. Battery might not be in enough. Let's see. There we go. Perfect. So now this one puck fits perfectly right in its spot. We're going to go ahead, get this bolt down in there. Start it by hand, possibly. Let's see. Yeah, it's going. All right, let's just try to speed this along. Perfect. That battery ain't going anywhere. Let's give it one more for good luck because this battery's heavy. Have a lot of momentum on it. All right, done. Alrighty, so we have our battery in place. I'm gonna go ahead and get our positive reconnected. We have my auxiliary light and switch bar wiring tucked back down beside the battery like I had it. Got the positive terminal on two, and let's go ahead, grab, we had a 10 mil nut that's gonna hold on the positive for our winch. So let's go ahead, undo that. Okay. That reaches just like it did before without complaining, without any issue. Get that tightened down. And let's go ahead and get this 10 millimeter nut, this lead tightened down to the positive terminal on our brand new EverStart Platinum battery with 8 100 cold crank amps. I am happy about that. Now we have our positive winch cable reattached, our positive leads reattached to the terminal. Now for the moment of truth, I suppose, right? So we have winch negative, right? And we also have our negative leads here. So let's go ahead. Okay. I'm going to go ahead and really tighten this sucker on too. That's on there. Ain't going nowhere. Lastly, let me go ahead. It's a 13 millimeter nut that was securing our negative for our winch onto the negative leads for the negative terminal. Let's see if I can just rip this tape off. Easy. Go ahead, just like how we had it. Right on over. And once again, so this is a oversized battery for the Sport S that, as you can see, fits perfectly in our battery tray. So just so you know, it's possible, it's doable. If you have to replace your Jeep Wrangler, JL, Sport, Sport S, what have you, anything that doesn't have a tow package, if you have to replace that battery, go ahead, do yourself a favor, because it's the same price, or if not close to the same price, and get a bigger battery. It's just going to help you. Okay, don't want to do too much to that, but that's on there. Once more with the 10 on the negative. That's on there. Once more with the 10 on the positive. There we go. Nice final turn. And just because I always like to be sure of myself, even more electrical tape. I'll tighten her with one more zip actually right now. That's even tighter than it was. Go ahead, clip her off. That's it. I guess all there is to do now is start her up and see what the hell happens. Once again, I was experiencing failure to remote start, as well as an obvious issue with just starting in general. Last I checked, the old battery was sitting at rest after a half-hour drive, at rest at around 11.7 volts. Yeah, let's go ahead, start her up, test her out, see if this fixed my issues. So hang on. And here's the moment of truth. Let's see. Any warning lights? Absolutely none. Don't mind the tire pressure light, because, yeah, I got no sensors in my wheels. But let's see. 14.2 battery voltage, and as you guys saw, started right up with remote start. Here's another thing I want to test. Let's go ahead. I'm going to turn the Jeep off. All right. So now, a big thing that I was noticing was all the dash and cluster. When starting, it would all go really dim. If you've ever experienced a dying or a dead battery in a vehicle before, you'll know exactly what I'm talking about. All right, so now we got our dash lights on. Let's see if we notice any dimming. Nope. None. None at all. So, that's great. Our issue here is fixed. Alrighty, so we fixed our issue, and man, that makes me really happy. We successfully fixed our starting issue, which was obviously related to the battery. This old one right here. This was the stock battery that was installed in this Jeep back in August of 2020. It served a 4.5 year lifespan, 4.5 year service, and the thing is, that is the expected lifespan of these stock batteries that come in these Jeeps. I've seen people complain that they've had their stock batteries only last 2 years, so I guess I'll consider myself lucky. And with that, we replaced it with something that's bigger and better than stock. That's gonna help it get through these cold Colorado winters with the extra power that it has. And it does have a 4 year warranty, this new battery. Once again, it was $180 from Walmart, this Everstart battery, Everstart Platinum. And it might last the same amount of time that this battery lasted, but it was in my budget, within my price point, and is bigger and better than what this battery was. Now, regarding the auxiliary battery, we conducted the auxiliary battery delete, which consisted of taping off the skinny negative loomed wire that goes to the negative terminal here on the battery, as well as opening up our fuse box and removing fuse number 42. This successfully deletes the auxiliary battery from the circuitry. The Jeep doesn't complain about it being missing because it doesn't realize it's missing, apparently. And everything's good as, not really good as new, but better without it. The thing is, you still do have to manually, unless you have a taser, manually disable auto stop start every time you enter the Jeep, as most of us already are used to doing. Because if you don't do that, it will try to drain from your main battery. Now, here in Colorado, I am not comfortable utilizing a taser or any sort of module that will adjust, make configuration changes to my PCM, because there's some weird emissions laws going around out here lately that might make it not possible to pass emissions in the future. So I'm avoiding that at all costs, actually. But I digress. What caused the issue? I do think it was simply just age of the battery, but deleting our auxiliary battery out of the equation, because all it serves is a purpose of something that I don't even use, which is the auto stop start, it removes a potential point of failure in the future of parasitic draw of our main battery when the auxiliary battery dies. That actually could have happened now, and let me add, it could have happened because I did not get any warnings on my dash, but I noticed over the past few months, maybe even the past 4 months, I had my auto stop start. I would forget sometimes to even turn it off, and it wouldn't trigger at all at any time. I thought that was pretty weird, and maybe it's possible the system itself was failing, the battery was failing. I'm not too sure. That's just from something that I observed, but I digress. Regardless, doing the auto stop start, doing the auxiliary battery delete removes that as a potential issue in the future. Now, I say delete because the battery's still there. It's actually, once again, located, touching it right now, right underneath the passenger side fender well. I don't have any fender liners, so I could just reach and touch it right under there. In the future, I do plan on actually removing it, getting it out of the Jeep. If it's not being used, I don't want a lead acid battery just sitting around in there for no reason, and maybe if it degrades, maybe something happens, maybe it leaks. I don't know. There's so many people online saying, oh, that's there's no reason, there's no need, it's not gonna, I don't care. That's my opinion. And I'm not comfortable with leaving it in there for 10, 20 years, as you could probably understand. So in the future, I'll definitely be removing it entirely, which I do believe, as I've read, might require taking the positive that's on that auxiliary and bringing it up to the main positive here. Not too sure. I will make a video about it in the near future when I do that. But for now, To recap, we've replaced our main battery with an H7 800 cold crank amp battery. That was $180 from Walmart. And we also conducted what I would consider heavily documented way to conduct an auxiliary delete within our Jeep JL, whereas now that auxiliary battery is no longer within the circuit in the equation and cannot cause any sort of parasitic draw, which is a main concern of Jeep owners these days. But once again, we've fixed our issue, and I've got to work in Jeep again. Thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you in the next video.